The recording is up and running. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Craig Kiger with Minnesota DNR Outreach. And today we have live from the State Fair. I'd like to introduce our host for episode 127, live from the State Fair. He's our Fish and Wildlife Outreach Supervisor. His team oversees the fish pond programming and other outdoor activities. He's a member of the State Fair coordinating team and has a long history with the Minnesota State Fair, including founder of the Eco Experience, managed by the Minnesota Pollution Control. It's my honor and privilege to introduce Jeff Letterman.
Thanks, Craig. I don't have as much credentials as my dad, who was actually the founder of the Miracle Birth Center, which is by far the most popular show that's out there at the fair. But we're not, Craig, we're not live. We're actually remote today so that we can operate and be in studio. But I sure wish I was out there. It's a beautiful day today. But we're going to walk you through some of the highlights of the fair for those of you that couldn't be out there today, or maybe even this year you're not able to make it down to the fair. So we're going to share a lot of the fun stuff that's going on at the DNR building today. We've never done this before, so this is going to be an experiment. We believe we've been testing. We've got enough Wi-Fi and broadband. We'll be able to get folks out there, but we're going to start at the fire tower, I believe. Benji, one of our hosts, and Amber, our other hosts, are out there. Our roving reporters. There he is. Excellent. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. And we can see you're up high in the sky.
Up high in the sky, almost the highest spot. I can see the needle over here a little ways. It's a little bit higher than the fire tower, but this is a super cool view up here at the DNR building. Of course, we are watching everybody walk underneath of us, looking over the treetops. Fire towers are actually a pretty important part of the DNR because we can spot fires from up here. That's what they're for. So back in the day, they used to have people that actually camp in these places. If you go out west, you can actually rent out fire towers and stay in them. They're super cool. So a lot of fun. So we're super excited to be here live from the State Fair. And on my way over here today, I ran into my friend Ann from Keep It Clean, Minnesota. If everybody follows along with what the Moss program a little bit, you've probably heard us talk about keeping our lakes and rivers clean when you're out there in the ice fishing. So I'm going to introduce Ann. I'm going to pass this over to her and let her say a couple things about Keep It Clean.
Hi, I'm Ann Bruciani Lyon, and I'm with the Keep It Clean Coalition. And this is our first year at the State Fair, and we're working to create awareness about the importance of picking up and removing garbage and waste from the ice during ice fishing season or anytime you're out recreating on the lakes. The Keep It Clean campaign is involved with legislation that passed this year, making it illegal to place garbage and waste on or under the ice. So we're here on the DNR grounds with a Keep It Clean wheelhouse, creating awareness so that people don't get ticketed and fined and are aware of the problem, the growing problem, and leave no trace when they're out on the ice.
Where can people learn some more if they want to find more information about Keep It Clean?
They can visit our website at keepitcleanmn.org. Whether you're an ice angler, a winter recreationist, or you enjoy the lakes during the summertime, live on a lake, have a cabin on a lake, visit a lake, we encourage you to visit our site. You can join the Keep It Clean campaign for free. And once you do join, you have access to a suite of marketing materials, banners, posters, stickers, table tents, bar coasters, and other items that you can use around your lake area to help create awareness and spread the message about the importance of picking up and removing garbage and waste from the ice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And if you're at the State Fair or planning on coming out here to the State Fair, if you go to the DNR building and go to the south end of the building, they have a really cool, it's a Yeti ice fishing shelter that is there with a lot of neat displays and a beautiful picture that a local Minnesota artist painted. You can get your picture. And Amy Marie Colseth painted this beautiful mural. So you get a picture taken in front of it. It's a really cool picture of, maybe we can walk, well, we can't walk by there because we don't have Wi-Fi over there, but you'll just have to come to the State Fair and check that out. So I think with that, Jeff, you got any questions for
Well, stewardship, obviously, we're the Minnesota Outdoor Skills and Stewardship Series, so I'm glad you brought this up and we are talking about it because that's so important that we take care of our lakes, especially when we're out ice fishing and on the water in general. So really good message. Let's talk a little bit more about the fire tower. Do you know what the hours are or how people get up and down? And I mean, it's a lot of steps, right?
It's 84 steps, and it sounds kind of easy when you say 84 steps, but they are not normal steps. They are rather steep steps to get up here, but it is a pretty cool view. It is how tall is the fire tower? 65 feet up in the air. So, and you can see a long ways. I can see the St. Paul Cathedral that's 3.8 miles away from here, out in the, I guess, the southeast direction from here. But it's really cool. The hours are open, I believe, 9 to 7. Hours 9 to 7. So come on out, enjoy it. It's a cool place to visit, and it's a beautiful day out. It's not too hot up here today. They have all the windows open, and it's very comfortable. So.
And there's no cost. It's free to go up. You just have to wait in line potentially, if depending on when you get there, right? They must regulate how many people come up at a time or something.
They do. There's a 10-person maximum at the top. Yes, it is free to get up here. But as you come up the steps, you can see everything. It's kind of a nice walk up here. We actually came up here about 15, 20 minutes ago, and there was like 2 people in line. So it's no line this morning. So come on out.
Excellent. And we have a whole bunch of other fire prevention resources and information out there right now. We were talking to Karen the other day, and they've got an old truck, which is really cool, an old fire truck, right, from like 100 years old or something like that, that used to work on fires in Minnesota.
1923 Ford Model A, I believe it is.
Yeah, and then more gear. I think you can try on some of the gear that you need for firefighting, if I recall correctly. So. And then Smokey, maybe we'll get to see Smokey the Bear. He's out there every day, is wandering the crowds. You can get your photo taken with Smokey the Bear, right?
Yeah, Smokey Bear makes an appearance about every hour from what I hear. So, and the pond talks are always a good thing to hit. We're going to talk about that a little bit as I go back down the fire tower, and we'll talk about the pond talks.
All right.
We'll move out of the way. Everybody get a good view.
Yeah, let's get some good views there. You can see. One of the things related to forestry also that we have out there, and it's really close to the fire tower out on that end of the building, is really good interpretive signage and information exhibits in the building where you can actually go through and learn a lot about forestry and forest products. And next to that also is the wildlife wing, where there's a lot of different mounted animals, and you can make a tour through our wildlife wing and our bat cave that shows a lot of different mounted animals that are out there. We can still hear you, Benji.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Next spot we're going to go to, we're actually waiting to connect with Amber. She's actually in the back of behind the scenes. So hopefully her camera is working, and we're going to talk to Genevieve Furtner. Genevieve is a relatively new staff member at the DNR. She's our hatchery manager in the St. Paul area of the St. Paul office, and she's in charge of taking care of all the fish and her staff. So hopefully we'll be able to connect with her in the back of the tank so you can get a little firsthand behind the scenes view of what goes on, and she's going to tell us some more about what's going on in the fisheries or in the fish tanks. If you've never been to the State Fair, we have a very large pond on the outside of the building that has well over 40 different species of fish that are some of them quite large, and it's fun to just be able to walk right up and see them. But in the building, if you've never taken the opportunity to go inside the building, about 10 years ago, we put in these really nice tanks with, again, they show a lot of the fish in their native habitat. So they've got like a Northwoods or a cold water fishery where we have some trout, and there's actually displays that show that with the fish swimming in there, live fish in these big tanks. And then we have more what you would see in a typical southern Minnesota pond, like a bass and sunfish and bluegill. And then some of our other, more like the state fish, of course, are Minnesota walleye. So those resources are available, or those places are a great place to stop inside the building and check those out. We also want to mention that you can still buy a license at the DNR building at the Minnesota State Fair. We have licensed sales staff out there with the kiosks, and they're ready to sell you any license that you might need. It is hunting season, of course, coming up. And this year we have a little bit of changes. There's more areas where you do actually have to have a lot. You may need to get an Angeles permit for your deer in the lottery situation. So you need to get those in by September 7th. So time's running out. If you're out at the fair, you can actually buy your deer hunting license and actually get application in for the lottery in time so that you can find out if you get one of those. But I see we have Genevieve. All right, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes,
Welcome.
I can hear you. Yeah, sorry. Amber couldn't hear you, so I forgot to say to her that you had introduced me already.
Yeah.
So yes,
I
am
have.
here
Welcome.
live in the backstage.
We're
Thank
really
you.
glad it's working and we can have you with us today. What are we looking at? Where are you?
Yes, so I am in what we call the backstage area of the indoor tanks. And this is where all of the, sort of guts of the fish tanks are. We've got a lot of different, machines. We've got water flowing all around and all this tools and equipment that we use to, hopefully from the front, we are completely invisible. Nobody knows that we're here at all, but we're hopefully using all this stuff to make the viewing experience really nice for all of our visitors.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, I mentioned wildlife, and we also have some snakes and reptiles or amphibians,
Yes.
right? They're in some tanks right next to the fish too. So, but I was in there
Yep,
yesterday
yep.
and there was a whole bunch of salt, big bags of salt along the wall. What's the story with those?
Yep. So first I do want to say we also have turtles in one of the tanks. They are in the
Okay.
southwest tank. So, if you're a turtle fan, you definitely got to see them interacting with the fish. But the salt bags are, we actually use to treat the fish. Most people don't realize that freshwater fish can handle up to a certain degree of salinity in the water. And they can handle that, but pathogens and parasites cannot. And so what we do with the salt
Okay.
is we will bring the salt level, the amount of salt in the water up a little bit to hopefully kill all the bad things in there, and the fish will be none the wiser.
Okay, interesting. And then oxygen, right, is really important. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, yep. So fish breathe oxygen just like we do. They're just using a different medium to breathe through. And so the water that we get is straight from the ground, and it comes from a well. And groundwater tends not to be very well oxygenated. So we have to add oxygen in. We're trying something new this year where we're pumping in pure oxygen into some of the tanks that really need that extra juice. And so if you're looking from the front, you might see some of, we call them air stones, and you'll see tiny bubbles coming out of those air stones. And that's just us adding more oxygen to the water to help the fish breathe, to help them be less stressed, and so that they can, they can be happier, and then everyone can be happier when they're looking at a happy and healthy fish instead of a sick fish.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this, that again, the Q&A is available and open. So if you'd like to ask questions of Genevieve or myself or anyone else at the fair, we can try to get an answer for you. So if you want to submit those questions, and we'll talk about those. I know folks want to know, where are the fish coming from? Where do they go? How do you get them? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, that's probably my number one question every single year. The fish do not live here year round. As much fun as it is to see all of them in one place, they don't. The pond, especially the outdoor pond, is not a very natural habitat, as you may have surmised. So we have a holding pond that's in St. Paul where these fish live for the other 50 weeks of the year. It's not anything special. It just looks like a normal pond, but that's what the fish want, is they want to be normal. They want to be wild. And so we take them out of that pond for the 2 weeks of the fair, and we put them back in, and we just wave bye-bye, see you next year, and let them do their fish things for the rest of the year.
And some of them have come back year after year for a long time, right?
Yes, yep. Some of the fish come back year after year. It's not always easy to tell which ones are the ones that come back year after year because and a lot of times one fish looks like the other fish if they're of the same species. But there are some fish out there that are very distinct in the way they look, and you can usually tell if that one's one of the ones returning. We have a sturgeon that has a very large hump in its back, and I've recognized that one. I remember it being here last year, which was my first fair. And when it came back again this year, I was like, oh yeah, that guy. So very happy to have that back again. And then there is one muskie in the pond that's a very large fish that I can usually tell that it's that particular muskie that keeps coming back. But certainly many of the other fish are also frequent fairgoers. They get in for free every year and they get to stay all 12 days. How lucky are they?
And what do they eat?
Yes. So a lot of the main question I get, it's kind of phrased as, how do you keep the fish from eating each other? And the answer is I don't. If a fish wants to eat while they're here, they're going to eat. We do have a couple things in place that reduce that predation. The first one is, again, that water is coming out of the ground, and it's very cold when it comes out of the ground. It's 53 degrees. So the fish are fine with 53-degree water. It happens to them all the time. They're in 53-degree water. We call it winter in Minnesota. So, they're very used to cold water. Maybe not at this time of year, but it's not something totally foreign to them. And when fish are in cold water, they tend to be slower, not just quite literally in the way that they swim, but also in terms of their just overall activity, their metabolisms. So they don't need to eat as much in colder water. We also bring in bait fish for them to partake in if they so want to. We bring in one shipment right before the fair, and we just got in our second shipment yesterday. And that's sort of like our offering, saying, hey, instead of eating the nice, bluegill that we want everyone to see, maybe eat a minnow. But of course, if something as big as the muskie were to get hungry, it's not going to waste its time on a minnow. So I can't stop them from eating each other. If they want to, it's going to happen. But, on the flip side, that's nature. If it does happen, I hope that, people can see it. And it'd be quite the spectacle watching one of those bigger fish chase one of the small, medium-sized fish in there. It'd be quite fun. Usually when you are here and you see some activity, it's the trout, because the trout are the exception to the rule. They love 53-degree water. Cold water is right where the trout want to be. So when you're out here and you see a splash or you see a fish jump, it's probably one of the trout, and they eat a lot of the minnows.
Very cool. Yeah, it's fun to see them out there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you're a hatchery manager. Tell us a little
Yes.
more about your job and what that all entails.
Yes. So my job kind of goes through a yearly rotation, and there's one part
Uh-oh, I think we've lost you.
year where I am focused on
There we go.
hatchery is summer. Hello?
We got you back. We got you back. Keep going.
Perfect. Okay, I'm sorry. Hatchery, where you raise fish. We have 15 in the state. Some of our hatcheries are year-round hatcheries, so they're always raising fish. But some of them are short-term hatcheries. I manage one of those short-term hatcheries. So I'm raising fish usually in late spring through midsummer. I raise walleye and tiger muskie and then muskie. In terms of numbers, the most fish that I hatch out and release are walleye, because I get them as eggs and then I release them shortly after they hatch. This year we did a record 41 million walleye went out the door at St. Paul Fish Hatchery. In terms of time, the fish that I spend the most time on are the muskie. The muskie we don't release right after they hatch. We raise them till they're about 2.5 inches in size. So we call them at that stage either frylings or fingerlings. And that's when we send them out to be in rearing ponds in different parts of the state. So rearing ponds are not natural ponds, not quite. They're kind of like that transition step from hatchery to the wild. And then they'll be in those rearing ponds, from anywhere for 8 to 12 months or so And then once they're of a size that we want to stock them into ponds at or lakes at, that's when we'll release them into the wild.
Okay, sounds really interesting.
I love it.
Again, just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, pop those in the Q&A. But we really appreciate your time today, Genevieve. Genevieve's doing dual work today. She's actually doing the pond talks. And we're actually speaking the pond talks. We're going to flip back to Benji, who's made his way down out of the tower and over to the pond, and hopefully get a little bit of view of the pond and some of the fish in there. And then he's going to tell us a little bit more about what goes on with the pond talks every day. Can you hear me, Benji?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, we're good. So yeah, I was just saying you're by the pond now. Tell us a little more about the pond talks, the interpretation that goes on every day.
The pond talks they're one of the highlights. They're one of my favorite things at the fair. You can gather around here. They start at 9:45 in the morning and they run every hour at the 45 of the hour through 4 o'clock. So come on out. You'll see myself or Jen is doing it today. One of our
I'm
fishers
doing it tomorrow. I'm
Jeff
doing it
will be out
tomorrow.
there tomorrow. Awesome.
Yep.
So we'll be out here. We'll tell you a little bit about the fish that are in the pond. We have, Jeff, we have about 160-ish species of fish in
Correct.
Minnesota, and
Yep.
about 45 of them are here in the pond. And we have, like Jen said, the muskie is one of her favorites. We have a muskie in here that's been here for many years. I'm not for sure if you can see it. I can't see my screen down here, but he's actually right down here in the pond.
We see what looks like a big log moving through the water.
That big log is one of the really cool species of Minnesota that we don't see a whole lot, is the paddlefish.
Yeah, we saw the
And-
paddle just briefly there. The big long snout, right? It looks like a paddle.
Big long snout that looks like a paddle is one of the cool fish that we don't have a season for in Minnesota, but live in our major river systems here, and they're a filter feeder. They use that paddle to help them scoop up plankton and stuff in the water to feed off of. So kind of a really cool fish. One of the other popular fish species we have here are the lake sturgeon. Of course, they're becoming more and more popular as a fish species and a catch and release species in Minnesota. And I learned the other day the record lake sturgeon was caught over in the St. Croix River, 78 inches long. I'm like, it's just
Wow.
a little bit taller than me, and it only weighs 128 pounds. So I guess I have them in the weight division, but we have a few of them in the pond here, which is kind of cool. So not a lot of people get to see lake sturgeon when they're out fishing all the time either. So
And that record fish was caught through the ice, which is amazing.
through the ice, I think over
Yeah.
in the St. Croix River, if I remember right.
Yes. Yep, it was. Yep.
So a lot of fun stuff happens here at the fair. The pond is obviously one of the big draws because we get to see all these really cool fish. We have some great fish posters. There's a big one. We got them posted here on either side of the pond. We also have them to give away out on the info desk, which I think Amber is going to be at in a little bit. So if you want to come and experience a little bit of the fair and take a fish poster home with you, you can help identify some of the fish that we have here in the pond with the poster. And actually, if you come out today is Water Day. So we have a bunch of our partner organizations here today, from Trout Unlimited doing fly casting to the Freshwater Society doing a game talking about fresh water. We have a Mario, our fisheries staff out of West Metro, here doing some fish identification. The Loon Center's down here, so all kinds of fun stuff, fun activities that are kind of in the DNR backyard here around the pond that you can come and enjoy today. So it's a beautiful day. Come on out and join us.
Yeah, excellent. Now, you and Genevieve talked about the muskie, and you mentioned the sturgeon and our records. We have a catch and release record program, as we talked about. What species does that cover again? Do you remember?
The catch and release record species, I think, covers most of the game fish. So your walleye, your sturgeon, your muskies, northerns. I think those are most of them that are covered by the catch and release record fish.
Sturgeon, though, as we talked about, get really big. I think that record will be broken again soon. So I think if you want to go for a new state record, that's probably the route to go. So.
Yeah, lake sturgeon are one of those really old species too. They can live to be like 100 years old. And we discovered a few years ago out in the Red River Valley, the bowfin out there, they've caught those that are in the hundreds of years old too. So kind of a cool species that we're just learning more and more about all the time.
Yeah, a lot of these native fish that aren't considered game species because they haven't had, regulations on them in the past. We do have those in the pond. There's some really, as you were talking about, the bowfin and sheep's head or freshwater drum and gar. That's another really cool one that is not typically considered a game fish, but is really a cool fish that we have in the state. So we in the pond have a lot of these really neat fish that you wouldn't normally potentially fish for, but you should, right? There's a lot of great fish to catch.
You can fish year round in Minnesota for some really fun species that aren't, your typical bass or walleye or northern pike. There's a lot of fish that are available out there to target all the time. Oh, we just had a little rainbow jump in there doing some acrobatics for us, if you can see that on the camera. But we actually did a great webinar on that,
Yeah.
Jeff. I can't remember what number it is, but catching rough fish with Corey. So I don't know if we could get a link or figure out what number that is and put that in the chat. That was a great episode talking about some of the common suckers and native fish of Minnesota that aren't your typical game species you can fish for year round.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the other topics that we've done. So again, those of you who are here obviously know how to register for the MOS system, but the MOS programs. But we do have all of our past webinars recorded. If you didn't notice on our website, there's a tab for past webinars, and we've covered, like you said, rough fish in general. But we also did a program last spring that was really successful and really well viewed. That was on freshwater drum or sheep's head and how to catch them. And I guess they taste really good too. I've never had one here, but I've been down to Florida and North Carolina catching drum, and they're a delicacy, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta try one of the freshwater ones up here.
Yeah.
And then this fall, go ahead.
Our sheephead are the only species of freshwater drum, I believe, in the world, but we have them right here in Minnesota. So most of them are saltwater species. So.
And then this fall, we should talk about that. Our schedule's just out. So if you haven't signed up for that, check that out. Again, on our website, we've got them all listed, but we're doing Cisco's, which is another native fish that's really important in our lakes.
Yeah, the fall series just rolled out last week. So jump on our website, minnesotadnr.com or .gov/discover and register for our fall series. We have a lot of really cool topics in there. And Scott and I believe Erica is joining him to talk about fall fishing. And these fish, one of these days, past this weekend, past the fair, it's going to start cooling down, and we're going to talk about fall fishing when they start strapping on the feed bag, fattening up for winter, and it's going to be a hot topic. It's a lot of fun fishing in the fall. So,
let's talk a little bit about fishing specifically, a little more about fishing in the neighborhood and the resources that are available. If you want to start fishing and you want to take your kids fishing, or you just want to try to catch some fish and get started, talk about that resource.
Yeah, fishing in the neighborhood is a fantastic resource, especially for the metro area. We have over 50 local lakes in the 7-county metro area that are specifically stocked and designed for taking kids out. So I don't know if you saw the bluegill when I was pointing down here. There's a couple bluegill right below me here in the pond. And those are one of the common species we find in fin lakes, fishing the neighborhood lakes, that kids, they're fairly aggressive. They're fairly easy to catch, really simple equipment, just a small hook, a little weight, and a bobber, and go dig some crawlers out of your backyard or garden, or go buy some at the local store. And you can almost always find a fin lake within a pretty short distance that has an accessible dock. Typically in the parks, they get a restroom there, and
Playground equipment.
Playground equipment. Yep. Keep the kids happy. Bring snacks with you.
Yes.
Keep them happy. Catch a little fish, and it's a great time.
And you can start
in the summer.
We both have daughters, and you can start them really young. My daughters caught their first fish at a fin pond in North St. Paul when they were 2. And I mean, they played more at the worms than they did fishing, but we had a great time and they caught their first fish.
It's good times.
Let's see if Amber's ready. I think she might be at one of our other spots in the building, and you're going to head over to the Parks and Trails Center, right?
I'm going to go visit Parks and Trails next, so we'll see you in a couple minutes.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Amber, do you have access, or I'm not seeing maybe we haven't had as good of Wi-Fi in certain parts of the building, so we're kind of trying to see if we can get connected with that. Doesn't look like I can't see or hear you, Amber. Sorry.
Can you
We
hear
do
us
not
now?
have any. Yes, yay.
Okay.
We can.
I made my way over to our wonderful license center. I'm going to give the headset to one of our incredible agents and turn on the camera.
Excellent. Who are we talking to today?
Yeah.
Hello. Who are we
Hello.
talking to?
Kevin,
Hey, Kevin. Good to see you.
good to see you too.
So you're selling licenses yet at the fair this year? Can you tell us a little about that? What's the hours?
The hours are from 9 to 7:30
Okay.
through Labor Day. Yep.
And what can we purchase when we're out at the state fair this year at the license center?
So we sell the deer license and small game fishing, of course, and also state park stickers.
And you can actually get your sticker and be all set to go when you're there, huh?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, we have them
Excellent.
in the office. Yep.
And how much is a state park sticker? This is an annual pass, right?
Annual pass is $35. Yep.
$35
Good for 12
now.
months.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. What's been your most popular, or what have you sold the most of so far?
We sell generally a lot of firearm license. This is the time of year where people need to apply for a dole permit. So that's usually our number one seller right now is a firearm license out here at the fair. Also, we do the small game, which we have the early goose or teal season coming up this weekend. So that's been also popular as well.
Yeah, the Angeles permit lottery, September 7th is coming up soon. So
yeah,
if
it's
folks
always
wanna do
the
that-
first Thursday after Labor Day. Yeah, so people try to get that in.
And we have a few more places in the state. Last couple of winters have been kind of tough up north. So we actually, the deer population's down a little bit. So we've moved some of those permit areas over to lottery. They used to maybe be either sex, but now some of them are
sure.
lottery. So check the deer map, the regulations information online, or talk to your local, say a license agent, and yeah, check that out, because you may be now in a lottery area and you might want to get those in.
Yeah,
Or talk
definitely.
to you at the fair.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, usually I tell people August 1st is when licenses are on sale, and it would be a good opportunity to see if your area has changed to a lottery, to a hunter's choice, or a two deer area. It's always good to check that map.
Yep.
Definitely.
Okay, and you take credit cards, right?
Yeah, we're only taking at the fair. We're only doing cards. We take Visa, Master, or Discover.
Okay, excellent. Anything else we need to know?
I think that's about it. It's been great. So yeah, come on out and see us.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're gonna head back over to Benji, and hopefully he's all set at the Parks and Trail Center. And we have this year, if you haven't been to the fair for a while, there's a new component out there. I'll let you guys talk about it, but welcome. And you see you have a guest.
I do have a guess. Can you hear us fine?
Yes, we can see you good too.
Awesome. I'm over here with Amy Elson from Parks and Trails. We're at the Parks and Trails Center. Jeff, if it's all right, I'm just going to give her my headset, and she can introduce us to some of the fabulous stuff they have going on at Parks and Trails, and you can ask her some questions.
Sounds good. And again, folks, if you're listening and you have questions for any of the staff out at the fair, or you want to quiz any of us about some of the things that happen at the DNR State Fair, please put a message in the Q&A. Hi, Amy.
Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad at all. It's a perfect day to be out here. The weather's great. It's so beautiful.
I know. I wish I was out there today. It's got to be the best day to be out there.
I would have to agree. I've been out. This is my third day out here, and definitely the best weather we've had so far.
Excellent. Well, you are at the Parks and Trail Center. Tell us a little bit about what you've got going out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Minnesota State Parks and Trails Center, this is our third year in this building, but the first year we had closed because of COVID in 2021. And so the last year we just had information in this building, Parks and Trails information, and we also had naturalists daily from 10 to 4. And we have that all coming back. And in addition, we also have our nature store, which has been closed since 2012, that we reopened for the public. It's been very well received. We have a ton of product that everybody just loves. So we're excited to be back out here selling t-shirts and all sorts of fun things out here that kind of give people a little bit of our state parks and trails, a little bit of a taste more at the fair. We also have a ton of great information to give out. We've got our Parks and Trails guide. Obviously, it's kind of our big thing here. We also have trail maps for off-highway vehicles, snowmobile trails. We also partnered with MnDOT this year. They have a bike web map that covers the entire state. And it's a customizable map where you go online and you can zoom in and you can get whatever kind of trails that you want. So this is our biggest question every year at the fair is where can I go biking? This is the answer.
Okay.
MnDOT's web map is amazing. It's just so much nicer to see all of the different kinds of trails, our state trails, in addition to regional trails and city trails and things like that.
And that's phone, looks like that's phone friendly or app for phone.
Yep, absolutely. It's a QR code and then they have like a direct link down here. It's not an app per se,
Okay.
it's just a web-based map. But it's customizable. You can turn layers on and off, and it's actually something that's brilliant because it combines a lot of, it's kind of like OpenStreetMap, but it is policed, if you want to say, by MnDOT. So they guarantee the quality of the data when they put it online. So this is something new that we're kind of cross promoting this year because it also works well with our state trails, obviously, when we want to get everybody connected throughout the state. We also have a lot of different giveaways as well. So we have an Avenza Maps game. So all of our state parks and trails maps are on Avenza Maps. It's an app. It is a third-party app that we do have permission to use and to promote. But we're trying to promote that just so that you know, people feel found in our state parks and on our state trails. That seems to be one of the common issues that people have with visiting some of our state parks is not, you know, feeling comfortable and feeling lost. So the Avenza Maps app is a great way to help people find themselves in the park. So all of our park maps are loaded, and then the little blue dot kind of follows you wherever you're at. You don't need cell service after you've downloaded the map. So you can go into the backwoods, and as long as your GPS is working, then you can know exactly where you're at in any of our facilities. And I know forestry and wildlife also have maps available on there too.
Yeah, that's a great resource. Now, I believe you have some naturalists that are going to be staffing the booth, and you
We
can ask
do.
all kinds of nature questions, maybe.
Yep. So we have different park naturalists here every day from 10 to 4. And every park naturalist has a different take on what they want to bring to the fair. So it's kind of different every day. Today we have Kao Tao from Fort Snelling State Park. And today he is doing state park trivia. And if people win the trivia, then they win a carabiner. And if you play our Avenza Maps app game as well at the fair, you also get a carabiner for telling us what you saw when you went along the map. But the naturalists have different things. So they have like a scat identification, and also they've got what type of fish this is. So they've got a lot of different things going on throughout the fair. It's a different every day. So for those of us that, you know, come out multiple days, it's actually kind of fun because you can get something of a variety at our booth every single time, which is fantastic. So.
Yeah, and Kao is also a great angler. I know, a teacher of aquatic ed. So
Absolutely.
anything about fishing too.
For sure. And he's out here doing a lot of fish talks, like multiple days throughout the fair, and I just love that, you know, he's also doing our naturalist booth and everything. The joy, you know, from families' faces that they get to spin a wheel and, you know, try to guess our trivia. It's pretty fun to watch. Another big thing that we have this year, so this has been a huge request over the years, and in our Parks and Trails guide we have this map. And it is a map of all the state parks and trails and forests and like state trails, water trails. So we've got this giant map, and people have always asked us, it's in our guide and like a nice small version, but we hear that teachers and educators, different people were actually like cutting out the guide map and, you know, putting their fish pins or circling, highlighting different things. You know, so I thought, well, why don't we just make it a poster? You know, the fish poster is amazing and everybody loves that. So
Mhm.
we're also handing those out here. But I made a free poster giveaway of all of our state parks and trails just because people love to look at maps. I think maps are, you know, obviously I'm the cartographer, so I have a little bit of bias for that. But so we also have this as a free giveaway as well as some free tattoos along with all of our other brochures.
Yeah, well, you mentioned push pins. I think it's really fun to be able to mark and check off all the places that you visit. And same with the fish. The fish is a Minnesota poster. You can check off the ones that you catch or mark when you catch them. I always challenge kids to see if they can get as many as they can before they retire. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And to have your bucket list. So, you know, you can mark them in different colors or have different push pins. You know, here's where I've been, here's where I want to go. So
Yeah.
it's always kind of a fun thing. So.
Hey, we have a question for you from our audience. Carol
Okay.
asked, other than the state fair, where could we pick up the map poster?
If it's the free brochure, this one here, I ordered 10,000 for the fair. So if we do
Okay.
have some of those, we can bring them back to central office. We are going to mail some out to all the parks. We found out that the parks would like them as well. Shocker, you know. But yeah, we may keep this as a running order. Is something that we give away at the information center and things like that. So it's been very well received here at the fair. So maybe it just becomes part of our standard brochure giveaway kind of thing.
Yeah, so there'll be a lot of great resources available through the DNR Information Center. So maybe Cassie or Craig could pop in the phone number and the email account. If people want to
Perfect.
get those, you can get the Fishes of Minnesota poster through the info center also. So yeah, good question.
Awesome.
Parks and Trails also runs a really great program. We are the Minnesota Skills and Outdoor Stewardship program. And so I know that a lot of folks are interested in many of the ICANN programs that you make available. Can you talk a little bit about the ICANN program?
Sure. The ICANN programs were first kind of started in 2010 as part of a legacy amendment program to get people New Year's is outside and comfortable with the outdoors. And so the ICANN programs are actually wrapping up. So it's not something that we do a lot of advertising toward the end of the fair. It's just been like, oh yeah, you can't do anything with it right now, but it's available next spring, you know. So it's one of those things where we push a lot more of our marketing and things like that ahead for the next season. But we do have ICANN Camp. We also have ICANN Paddle. ICANN Canoe Camp, I believe, is one of those things, or part of the ICANN Paddle program. You can actually go overnight and do a canoe overnight paddling situation.
Okay.
We also have ICANN Mountain Bike, which is hosted at our Cuyuna Country State Recreation Area.
Oh.
And I'm sure I'm missing one.
ICANN Fish.
We have ICANN Fish. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you about that. I'm like trying to remember my poster here.
Yeah.
And we do also have archery in the parks, which is kind
That's
of a
right.
pseudo ICANN program. It's sort of like run by a lot of our park staff. So it's just something that
Climb.
they offer. We do not do ICANN Climb anymore.
You don't? Okay,
No,
I'm
that
sorry.
no, that's totally fine. I think that one ended in 2019, something like that.
Okay.
We had it for a few years and it was great, but it was a lot of extra, you know, just extra, you know, so.
Lots of equipment, yeah.
Right, and we used to do ICANN paddleboard, and some of the people may cover that, but it's not a focus. It's more the kayaks and canoes and things like that, and the ICANN paddle programs.
Yeah, and again, if folks in that Cassie or Craig maybe put that website, but there's an ICANN webpage, right? So if people go to the mndnr.gov and just search for ICANN,
and it's actually just as easy as that. mndnr.gov/ICANN is one word.
Oh, it is.
Too, as a short URL. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but most of the programming happens in the summertime, obviously, with fishing and canoeing and paddling.
Yeah, yeah. Our last program, I think, runs through the second week in September, and then I think that's the last one.
Okay. Anything else you want to add about Parks and Trails or things that are going on? Fall colors.
Yes, fall colors is coming up. We're just sending out all the emails, alerting our staff to kind of get in that feeling. We've got like our snowmobile maps that are kind of going off. I mean, everybody's kind of starting to feel the fall and the winter is starting to come. We've got lots of great sweatshirts for sale if you are interested in that also. Inside the
Excellent.
building, we do have like a couple of displays. We've got our ATV display where we have trail ambassadors that come and talk about youth safety, and you can actually sit on an ATV and see if it's a correct fit. So they talk about a lot of youth safety and training. And then we also have a kayak that you can sit in as part of our water trails display if anybody's never sat in a watercraft. Of course, you know, they're selling like hotcakes everywhere, so I think it's less of an issue than it used to be. But yeah, it's something that you can do at the fair just to kind of see if you've never done it before. You can actually try it out and see what you think.
Yeah, I just got a kayak this summer, or
fantastic,
two of
yeah.
them for my wife and I,
It's
and love them.
fantastic.
Yeah, they move so fast and easy,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're stable. It's great. And we just did a webinar, Minnesota Outdoor Skills and Stewardship Series webinar 2 weeks ago, I think, on kayak fishing. So
Oh,
there's a lot of
fantastic.
great things you can do in water you can access with kayaks that you couldn't get with a regular boat, with a regular boat. So check that out on our past webinars on our mndnr.gov/discover, and you can watch some of our webinars. Well, thank you
Fantastic.
very much, Amy. Really appreciate the time today and for showing
Yeah.
us around the Parks and Trails building, and hopefully we'll see you out at the fair.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Amber, are you in ready in another, or Benji in another look? Well, Benji's right there. I was going to see if Amber is potentially ready. I'm hoping we may have a special guest. I know she was going to try to go to a different location. Can you hear me, Benji or Amber?
I can hear you, Jeff.
Okay. We're trying to, I think, see if we get Amber. I think was going to go maybe over to the forestry area in a little bit here, but anything else you wanted to highlight at the nature area, or?
No, I think it was really cool that we have the map that we were talking about the other day. We were just talking about mountain biking here on the stage yesterday. And then we learned today that they worked with DOT and they have a lot of maps and trails and whatnot all marked out for us. So it's kind of a neat feature of the Parks and Trails. They did a lot of work there. So
Is your camera off by chance?
it is.
Or your video? Okay.
I'm actually, we had to move. So I am moving
Okay.
across here a little bit. I'm going to go over by the groundwater model and check that out.
While you're doing it, let's chat about, you mentioned the stage. We haven't really talked about that. Every day, there are at least 3 stage presentations on the main DNR stage, where there's also a bunch of great bands that are out there. Yesterday, as you're talking about, we did a bunch of different presentations, but every day, different divisions, programs in the department are doing these presentations at usually 11, 1, and 3 o'clock. And then there are different bands that are there also. So it's a great opportunity to get some good information, good education, and entertainment. And then the bird show is back this year too. We are, because of COVID, we're not able to have that, and bird diseases last year we're not able to be there, but that is back too every day on the other side of the building. So that's a great opportunity. It's a really fun show.
Did you find Amber back there? Was she able to join us?
Oh, look at, we see her camera. She's got, yes, she has a guest. Can you hear us, Amber? Oh, we lost picture again. We saw Smokey though for a few seconds. He's at the fair. Smokey's out and about. So you can see Smokey while you're out at the DNR building and get a picture with him. So let's take it back to you, Benji. It looks like Amber's having trouble. The Wi-Fi on that side of the building isn't as good, but we did see Smokey for a brief second. All right, we got your camera on, Benji.
All right, can you see the groundwater model there? It's a little.
Yes, yep.
Being that it's water day in the fair, we're just kind of cutting into.
You're all broken up. So
yeah. It's a little broken up. Yep. Take it away, Benji.
I'm here with Scott. He's showing these fine young ladies here at the state fair a little bit about our groundwater model. it's one of those fun things that we get to do on Water Day is share a little bit about, you know, what happens with Minnesota's groundwater. So I might just, well, he's getting questions. He's getting questions now. So groundwater is a very important resource for Minnesota, and we're very fortunate to, you know, have the resources we do here in the state. Obviously, if you're in southern Minnesota, you can, you know, go fishing in these streams that are fed by groundwater that keep it cold. For the trout anglers out there, we've talked about that on the Moss program for a long time here. But groundwater in general, it gets to be kind of an important thing with all the cities and wells and the development going on. So our local hydrologists are studying groundwater all the time to figure out what the levels are and how we can keep it clean and how we can better utilize that resource and conserve that resource. So not too many people have actually seen groundwater or a groundwater model before. So I thought I'd sneak over here and see if we can talk to Scott a little bit about that. What are we doing for time, Jeff?
It's 12:50. We got a few more minutes, but we're getting close to the end of the hour.
Okay.
Tell Scott that Lindsay wants to talk to him. She left a message in the Q&A.
Basically shows a barrel
Oh.
and then we bring it over.
I'm gonna pass the microphone over to Scott real quick. Lindsay in the audience has a question about groundwater for you. So I'm gonna pass this over. Would you answer a question for us?
Hey, Lindsay,
Can you shift the camera a little bit?
shift the camera. Hi.
Oh, yeah, there you are. There you are.
Hi.
Hi, Scott. Welcome. Glad you could join us.
Yeah. Hi.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing today out at the fair.
So I'm a hydrogeologist. I work with the Groundwater Atlas unit at the DNR. I'm out of central office. And today we brought out our groundwater model, which just really is used to kind of show simply how water can move through our various geological formations. This particular model shows us an unconfined aquifer, it shows us a buried aquifer, and it shows us a bedrock aquifer. And we can put dye in and basically show how groundwater moves in this very simple system. It's got a gradient that's built with a pump where we have a recharge area. And when we put that dye in, that dye moves across the model. And it's a really great eye opener and very nice introduction for people into groundwater and how it moves.
Yeah, because you can't really see groundwater when you're standing on top of the ground, right? So it's a really great way to demonstrate that. Lindsay did ask a question about how many Minnesotans rely on groundwater. I think she's asking it like particularly for drinking water. Do you have that number?
No, I don't have that number. I'm sure it's on our website somewhere. But quite a few, I would say it's large. I'm going to say something like 70 to 80% of Minnesota is using groundwater as a drinking water supply source. That's somewhat unusual. If you look nationwide, you'll find out more people are using surface water. But we're fortunate here in Minnesota that we've got many different groundwater sources. And here in the metro area, we have the Prairie du Chien Jordan Aquifer, which is a really tremendous resource for groundwater.
Yeah, and as Benji, I think, was talking about, so many of our streams and lakes and rivers are connected directly with groundwater. I mean, not directly, but they flow. There's a lot of flow that goes in and out and really are important for recharging all of our lakes and streams that we rely on for recreation and in some cases drinking water too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Back years ago when I first started in the business, surface water and groundwater were kind of thought of as two separate.
Okay, you froze up. Oh, okay, keep going. All right, we're getting spotty signal, but we can see.
Oh, sorry, it's breaking up. Okay, yep, here we go.
You still there, Jeff?
I am, but yeah, we're losing. Well, that's a really good shot of the model there, Benji.
Scott's gonna
but you guys
put a little dye in there real quick and see if it'll
okay.
see what it does.
We're gonna put a little dye into well number 2, which goes into
He's
Putting the
it in
dye in
well
well number 2.
Well number 2, that's a confined aquifer. So you can see it's separated right here.
and you can see right away it comes out of the well and it begins traveling across the top of the aquifer. It's not even going to the bottom of the aquifer. And this is because the flow gradient.
You can see from the, there's flow coming in up here on this side, and as it comes down, that dye is running across the top of the aquifer down there because of the water coming in on this side and running out on this side. So you can see these other wells are now getting some of that dye in them.
Yeah, which could, for example, could be a contaminant.
Diminishing as it travels towards the river.
You can see how the dye is kind of diminishing as it gets down towards the river over here in this area. So dilution, I guess, right?
But it doesn't go away. Yeah.
It's online at our website.
It's showing off the groundwater atlas of Hennepin County in Minnesota there, so you can get that online if you have any groundwater questions. So
Okay. All right. We are running out of time. Thank you, Benji and Amber, for being out there and negotiating the crowds and all of the technical difficulties or challenges, I guess we will say. Craig, do you have I missed any questions or anything that's come up that we need to cover?
I don't see any additional questions. I just want to remind everybody to tune in next week for episode 128. And we're going to talk about the new changes for crossbow hunting in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's going to be a really great show. And significantly, a lot of people might be able to take advantage of that. So with the new law, and you've got a lot of experience with that, as does our other guest. I know have actually taken a deer right with a crossbow. So we can't wait to.
Cassie has sent a message to me to remind everybody about all the links in the episode. And if you stayed linked or logged into this, you can go and check out all those links.
Excellent. Thanks everybody for joining us. Benji, you're back on. Do you have any last words? It's a beautiful day out there. Get outside.
It's gorgeous out here. It's supposed to get hot this weekend. Come out today. Jen is here doing pond talks all day, and it's just a fantastic day out here at the fair. I'm going to go get some cheese curd tacos, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Our fall schedule's out, so sign on up. So
all right.
See everybody next week. Have a safe weekend.
Thank you. Thanks, Amber. Thanks everybody for joining us and with our trying this live show. Hopefully it went well for all of you. We enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Have a good time out at the fair.
Thanks, everyone.